In the scorching deserts of North Africa, a lone radio operator played a pivotal role in the Battle of El Alamein, one of the most decisive battles of World War II. This is the story of Corporal Jack Taylor, a 25-year-old British signals specialist who found himself at the forefront of a war that would change the course of history. Taylor's tale begins in the summer of 1942, as the Allies were struggling to gain a foothold in the desert against the formidable Afrika Corps, led by the brilliant and ruthless General Owen Rommel. As the Allies prepared for the impending battle, Taylor was stationed with a small team of signals specialists in a makeshift radio shack, buried deep within the British lines. Their mission was to intercept and decipher German communications, providing vital intelligence to the Allied commanders. But as the battle raged on, Taylor's team found themselves increasingly isolated, with their radio equipment malfunctioning and their supplies dwindling. Despite the odds, Taylor refused to give up, and his determination would prove to be a turning point in the battle. On the eve of the battle, Taylor received a frantic message from British intelligence, warning of an imminent German attack on the Allied positions. The message was cryptic, but Taylor's instincts told him that something was amiss. He quickly realized that the Germans were attempting to outflank the British forces, using a little-known desert track to launch a surprise assault. With this knowledge, Taylor sprang into action, hastily assembling a makeshift transmitter from spare parts and broadcasting a warning to the Allied commanders. The message was received by General Bernard Montgomery, the commander of the British 8th Army, who was initially skeptical of the warning. But as the hours passed, and the German attack materialized, Montgomery realized the gravity of the situation. He quickly mobilized his forces, racing against time to reinforce the threatened sector. The Allied troops were stretched thin, but they managed to hold their ground, thanks in large part to Taylor's timely warning. As the battle raged on, Taylor continued to broadcast vital intelligence to the Allied commanders, providing them with a glimpse into the German plans. His transmissions were often interrupted by enemy jamming, but he persevered, using his knowledge of Morse code and radio theory to outwit the German interceptors. The stakes were high, and the tension was palpable, as Taylor worked tirelessly to keep the Allies informed. The turning point came on the third day of the battle, when Taylor intercepted a German message detailing Rommel's plans to launch a final, desperate assault on the Allied positions. The message was encoded, but Taylor's team worked feverishly to decipher the text, finally cracking the code just as the German attack was about to begin. The intelligence was rushed to Montgomery, who used it to launch a devastating counterattack, shattering the German lines and sending Rommel's troops reeling. As the dust settled, Taylor's role in the battle became clear. His bravery, ingenuity, and unwavering dedication had changed the course of the battle, providing the Allies with a crucial edge that would ultimately prove decisive. The Ghost Transmitter, as Taylor came to be known, had held back Rommel's forces, buying the Allies the time they needed to regroup and launch a successful counterattack. Though his name would never become a household word, Corporal Jack Taylor's contribution to the war effort would be remembered for generations to come, a testament to the power of individual courage and determination in the face of overwhelming odds. The battle-scarred landscape of El Alamein would never be the same, as the Allies began their long march towards victory. Taylor's story would serve as a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there are always heroes waiting to be found, their bravery and selflessness inspiring others to follow in their footsteps. The war would rage on, but for Taylor and the Allies, the tide had finally turned, thanks to the heroic actions of a lone radio operator who had single-handedly changed the course of history. As the Allies began their push forward, Taylor's team was tasked with providing real-time intelligence to the advancing troops, a daunting challenge given the harsh desert environment and the ever-present threat of German interceptors. The team worked tirelessly, often going without sleep or food as they struggled to keep up with the frenetic pace of the battle. Taylor's skills as a signals specialist were put to the test as he worked to outwit the German jamming efforts, using every trick in the book to keep the Allied commanders informed. Despite the chaos and confusion of the battlefield, Taylor remained focused, his mind racing with the implications of every message he intercepted. The Germans were far from defeated, and Taylor knew that they would stop at nothing to regain the initiative. As the days turned into weeks, Taylor's team found themselves facing a new challenge, the scorching desert heat. The sun beat down relentlessly, draining the life from the men and the equipment. Taylor's radio shack became a makeshift oasis, with the team huddled around the transmitter, desperate for any snippet of information that might give them an edge. The air was thick with tension, the smell of sweat and smoke hanging heavy over the desert landscape. Taylor's instincts told him that the Germans were planning something, but he couldn't quite put his finger on what it was. He spent every waking moment poring over the intercepts, searching for any hint of a German counterattack. And then, just as the Allies were beginning to gain momentum, Taylor intercepted a message that made his blood run cold. The Germans were planning to launch a massive air raid on the Allied positions, using their remaining aircraft to devastating effect. Taylor knew that he had to act fast, to get the warning out to the Allied commanders before it was too late. He hastily assembled a message, his fingers flying across the keyboard as he worked to encode the warning. The transmitter crackled to life, spewing out a burst of Morse code that Taylor hoped would reach the Allies in time. But as he waited for a response, Taylor couldn't shake the feeling that he was running out of time. The Germans were closing in, their aircraft roaring through the skies like a deadly storm. Taylor's team held their breath, waiting for the inevitable, as the desert landscape erupted into chaos. The sound of gunfire and explosions filled the air, the Allies scrambling to respond to the sudden onslaught. Taylor's warning had been received, but it was unclear if it had come in time. The next few hours would be crucial, as the Allies fought to hold back the German air raid. Taylor's team worked tirelessly, providing real-time intelligence to the Allied commanders as they struggled to regain the initiative. The battle raged on, the outcome hanging precariously in the balance. Taylor's role in the battle was far from over, as he worked to outwit the German interceptors and provide the Allies with the intelligence they so desperately needed. The war was far from won, but Taylor's bravery and determination had given the Allies a fighting chance. As the sun began to set on the desert landscape, Taylor's team waited anxiously for news of the battle's outcome, their fate hanging precariously in the balance. The silence was oppressive, punctuated only by the occasional burst of gunfire or the roar of an aircraft overhead. Taylor's mind was racing, his thoughts consumed by the implications of the battle. Had the Allies held back the German air raid, or had they been overwhelmed? The answer, like the outcome of the war itself, remained maddeningly out of reach. And then, just as the darkness was beginning to fall, a message crackled through the transmitter, the Morse code weaving a tale of chaos and destruction. The Allies had held their ground, but at great cost. The German air raid had been devastating, leaving behind a trail of death and destruction. Taylor's warning had come just in time, but the outcome of the battle was still far from certain. The war would rage on, the Allies facing a new and daunting challenge as they struggled to regain the initiative. Taylor's team would be at the forefront of the battle, providing the intelligence that would ultimately decide the outcome. The stakes were high, the tension palpable, as Taylor worked tirelessly to outwit the German interceptors and provide the Allies with the edge they so desperately needed. The desert landscape was a battleground, the war raging on with no end in sight. Taylor's bravery and determination would be tested to the limit, as he worked to change the course of history once again. The darkness closed in, the only sound the steady hum of the transmitter, as Taylor waited for the next message, his heart pounding in his chest. The war would not be won overnight, but Taylor's role in the battle would be remembered for generations to come, a testament to the power of individual courage and determination in the face of overwhelming odds.